I'm Arthur Black. Welcome to Weird Homes, a show that looks at the most unusual and bizarre homes in North America. Martinis on the roof. High and dry in the best sense of the phrase. Mind you, this is pretty low-key compared to the escape artists we're about to meet. First, we'll hook up with Jackass Jill. Her home is an entire mountain. Why? Because she loves rocks. Now, Mark and Kathy, they love trees. They don't so much go out on a limb, they sleep on it. And it's hard to describe Sidecar Willie's digs. Think space-age science crossed with old-time vaudeville. Weird homes? You better believe it. Let's take a look.
Some folks go to great lengths to get away from it all. Laura Leveque went all the way to an abandoned silver mine in the mountains of New Mexico. While Kate and Mark Tague decided that their escape route was straight up. As for Sidecar Willie Nassau, even a treehouse isn't high enough. Is that a flying saucer, Willie? These homes are not your typical bungalow next door. The Badlands of southwestern New Mexico. Not much out here but desert, scrub brush, rattlers, and Laura Leveque. Laura doesn't mind being out here by herself. And as for the rattlesnakes, hey, Laura's so hospitable, she'll invite them in for dinner. Cooking out in the desert is a simple affair. Just fire up the camp stove, saute a few onions, and add 1 fillet of snake. And anyway, Laura's not really all alone. She's got her dog, Soapy, and 2 mules, Shaggy and Willie. There's Willie now, although he looks kind of shaggy. Laura, why don't you give us a tour?
Hi, welcome to my shack. This is where I live and work, and all the things here are things I've collected in my travels and underground. You can see my skull collection. Some of those skulls are actually quite old because out in the desert, things last a long time.
It's not a soft life. No plumbing, no electricity, no phone, no TV. Laura has to drive 50 miles just to get groceries. But ask her why she lives here and she'll tell you.
Looking outside, sheep and an occasional mountain lion, and it scares the wits out of you, almost wet your pants. And that's the fun part. I like being scared out of my wits. You sure know you're alive when you're scared out of your wits.
It's a far cry from the life Laura used to live on a rain-soaked island off the coast of Washington State. 6 years ago, she left a job as a real estate agent and moved from the wet to the dry. She bought 64 acres of rocky desert right next to the old Granite Gap mine at Mile 20, New Mexico. Laura loves rocks. If you told her she had rocks in her head, she probably wouldn't argue.
And rock collecting is a mental illness. Once you start, it's like family, home, anything that should matter becomes sort of secondary. And unfortunately, I don't know that they have a Rock Hounds Anonymous yet, but they really should. It is a real problem because every time you see a rock, you have to pick it up. Then pretty soon you buy a mine and you live in the middle of nowhere with no water and no power, and you have your rocks for companionship. But it's really funny. I like it. They have a saying in mining, they have leverites. I don't know if you've ever heard of leverites. Lever right where you found it.
The Granite Gap mine operated for 60 years, 1880 to 1940. That means there's more than just rocks lying around waiting to be found. Laura saves those treasures, too.
Not only do I collect beautiful rocks, but I collect what most people would call junk. This is also an addiction that actually goes along with hand in hand with the rock collecting, because you're in an area generally where there's a mine and gorgeous rocks, you find these type of items.
Laura's nickname is Jackass Jill, and just about every day this Jill goes up the hill. Not to fetch a pail of water, there isn't any up there, but to visit the mine and fetch a few more boxes of her first love, rocks. Going to the mine is no stroll through the park under the blazing New Mexico sun. And most of the trip is uphill. That's Laura's shack in the distance, a quarter of a mile away. The hills up here are honeycombed with old mine shafts and tunnels. Laura spends 8 to 12 hours a day poking around in them. Miners weren't the only ones who worked these tunnels. Cattle rustlers used them too. And those boys left some mementos behind.
Well, here's our hanging beef from the cattle thieves. When I first came in this tunnel about 6 years ago, I didn't know anything about this, and I saw this hanging, this rib cage, and I just about had a heart attack. Thank God when I saw the little cow tail, I knew what it was. Hard like wood. It's been here a long time.
Laura used to live where it was green all year round, but she prefers the desert, with flowers that never need watering.
And that's why I moved here, because rocks are just there, and they're bright, and you can pick them up, and it's just a blast. What can I say?
Yeah, Jackass Jill has got it made, with her donkeys, her dog, and a backyard full of rocks. Not to mention a tasty rack of rattler whenever she's feeling peckish. When they got married, like many young couples, Mark and Kate Tague bought themselves some land and made plans to build a house on it.
You're in. How's that?
Small problem. The 5 acres Mark and Kate bought sit in swampland outside Geneva, Florida. So the house the Tagues planned and built turned out a little different than your average starter home. What do you do when your house lot is full of trees you don't want to cut down? Build yourself a treehouse.
Well, he saw this cluster of 6 palm trees one day, and he just decided that it would make a good platform. So that's what we did. We built a platform. That's where we started. We're just building a platform, he said to me. And then we'll see where it goes from there.
The construction technique was pretty simple in that what we did was we took these big boards and we just ran them around the perimeter, because ordinarily when people think of a treehouse, they think of something in a huge elm tree or an oak tree that has, you know, huge branches splayed out to accommodate a central platform. But this lent itself better to go ahead and build a platform around the perimeter of a circle of trees. So we scoped this out in the woods and found an appropriate circle of trees, and that's where we started with that platform.
Kate and Mark figured they'd live in their treehouse in the woods for maybe 5 years. That was 15 years ago.
This was the first thing we did. We put this pole down and started building the floor above with these spokes. It was just the 2 of us with our ladders and our hammers on the weekends, after work, at night, and just poked at it until we got it decked.
The St. Johns River winds right around the Tague treehouse. Sometimes Kate feels like she's right in the river.
The treehouse used to sway when we'd have really heavy afternoon thunderstorms. It was like you rocked and rolled. It was kind of like being a boat. And it creaks. It makes noises like a boat.
Okay, so the treehouse can ride out storms. But those trees are still growing. Aren't they going to tear your roof off or something?
People always ask me if the treehouse doesn't grow, because they think, you know, that it would over the years. But a tree grows from the top. It doesn't grow from the bottom. So in all the years that this treehouse has been here, it's never grown up. My enemies threaten to come and fertilize the trees to make it go cattywampus, but it doesn't work that way.
Mark and Kate lived with Kate's parents while they worked on their treehouse. After 3 years, they moved into their finished 2-story, 800-square-foot home. And Treehouse proud Kate is more than happy to show us around.
So this was our bedroom and living room combination. This is where we started. This is pretty much all we had. We like to travel, so we collect things, little antiques and whatnot from flea markets. And we came up by ladder. We moved our bed up here on a ladder.
The Tagues liked their treehouse so much, they built themselves another one. Just next door, make that just next tree, to the original home, is this one. It was built as a guest house. It's since been transformed into Kate's office.
This is what I call my lair. I spend a lot of hours here at the computer. I'm writing a book or two. One's a vampire book, one's a fiction book about an illness.
The walls of both tree houses are adorned with unusual treasures Mark and Kate have picked up on their travels. Some would say it all adds up to a couple of weird homes, and Kate would agree, especially given the rest of the neighborhood.
This house is definitely weird for where we are in Disney World, Florida, where everything is plastic, nothing's really real, where they've overbuilt, and this place is underbuilt. It's an understatement. It's simple, but it's weird.
Disney World it definitely ain't, and some neighbors think that's a fine thing. Veterinarian David Jordanay believes it would be a big mistake to judge this book by its cover.
Yeah, and I've known Kate and Mark for 13 years now. Certainly have become close friends of ours. I don't think that necessarily the living arrangements matches the personality. They're just about as normal people as you can get.
Kate and Mark may be normal, but their tree houses are definitely, well, nonconformist. At least one of their neighbors thinks so. Even though the Tague property is virtually invisible through the foliage, the neighbor complained to county officials. In came the inspectors. Tree houses, they said. No permit. Doesn't meet existing codes. Pull them down or put up something legal. Now, Mark and Kate have been forced to build a third ground-level home on their property. But typical of the Tagues, they decided to do it their way.
When we were designing our new house, we took this little house to the architect, and we told him, make it look like this.
And he did. So it looks like after 15 years, the law has forced Kate and Mark to come back down to earth. Mark came back to earth a bit too literally. While working on the new house, he fell off the roof and broke his back. He's on the mend, but he still needs to walk with a crutch for a while. Now, Mark and Kate can sleep in their new down-to-earth home, or they can climb the stairs to their old treehouse. Not hard to figure out how Kate votes on that.
When we're away from here, it feels odd not to be up in the trees. When I wake up in here, it just feels so good to wake up inside this little, it's like a cocoon almost. I'm not sure how I'm going to adapt to the new house. Probably come back here and sleep sometimes.
A brand new home, a funky old treehouse, and a natural swimming hole at both front doors. Walt Disney, eat your heart out. What is it about Florida? An hour's drive from the Tague tree houses brings you to this house, pavilion, UFO? Call it what you want. Sidecar Willie calls it home. Sidecar Willie lives way back in the swamps, and that's just the way he likes it. He needs elbow room and solitude to work out his architectural ideas, such as this space-age home he built. Must be complicated, right? Not hardly.
House only has 3 parts. Everything in here is only 3 parts. A hub, a strut, and a bolt. And with that, you have 12 degrees of freedom in this house, of design freedom, 12 directions that I can build in. In a conventional house, you only have 6. And by how you put the geometry together, you can build pyramids, You can build space frame structures for buildings. You can build geodesics. You could literally build from the Earth to the moon and touch the moon, and the entire structure would rotate with the Earth.
Well, Willie hasn't built to the moon yet, but don't count him out. He's been reaching for the stars since he was a little kid. His parents performed in vaudeville. His dad was a comedian, his mother a dancer. And Willie, well, he traveled the vaudeville circuit with his folks. Traveled and marveled.
I saw a man take and drink a quart of water on stage. Then he drank a quart of kerosene. Then he held a torch out, puked up the kerosene, lit the torch on fire, puked up the water, put it out. Thank you, 3 shows a day. Akbar the Magnificent. So when you see stuff like that, you know, you're just so sparked. I mean, it's creativity.
And Willie's sparks ignite out here in the Florida swamps. He says his house is built on the principle of strength without weight. Well, looks pretty light, but how strong is it?
It's been through several hurricanes. It don't move. Tornadoes, everything out here. These buildings don't move. The neighbors' houses all get blown away, but mine do fine.
But Willie doesn't credit modern technology. He says Mother Nature figured this stuff out ages ago.
I remember walking along one time after a hurricane went through here, and trees were ripped out of the ground, and tornadoes had pulled things down. In the middle of all that was a spider web. And I'm thinking, my God, how could a little spider web survive all that? So I sat down, studied it all, and came up with a lot of these ideas that we see here.
Willie's built a 600-square-foot domed house and suspended it 12 feet in the air. And it's all supported by 3/4-inch conduit pipes bolted together. Not exactly a spider web, but close enough.
Okay, well, this is basically my workshop. It's where I hang out, where I do all my thinking.
And Willie thinks big. He's fired off a couple of design plans for future space stations to NASA. And while he's waiting for the space boffins to catch up, he's working on a couple or 3 earthbound theories. Willie is particularly fascinated by pyramids.
I believe I can create energy off of that pyramid shape. Now, they say there's a pyramid energy, and I know that exists. If I could take a pyramid and make it run a watch, that would be quite a feat. And I believe that through the use of crystals, that can be done. These big systems here, this is what the house is sitting on. But yet this system here is exactly the same thing done in wire. When you get to this point of stability, you can literally build floating cities that would levitate in the air because the construction is so lightweight.
Although Willie's home has yet to achieve liftoff, his landlords are impressed. So much so that they commissioned Willie to build a home like his for them. Only bigger. Much, much bigger. The landlord's house has 3 floors, it's 40 feet in diameter, and sits on a platform 50 feet off the ground. Like Willie's home, this one gets all its power from Mother Nature. And what does landlady Stephanie Leveque think about the house that Willie built?
I really like the house and all that. It's a lot of space, and it's really different. It's 12 feet in the air. What more can I say? And if a hurricane comes, you slice the bottom off and you just float along.
Willie got his nickname by racing motorcycles with sidecars attached. But Willie says he owes his success to his wisecracking, high-stepping parents.
There's a lot of stories about Sidecar Willie and who he is and what he is, but the truth is that I'm a product of those vaudevillian people. I love the show. I love everything about entertaining.
And Willie is still figuring out new forms of motorcycle entertainment. He's even invented a brand new sport, racing unimotorcycles. Willie, what the heck is that?
Unimotorcycle racing is a sport in which someone must design a device which is capable of traveling 100 feet on one wheel, okay? And then to be the champion, you must do that quicker than anyone else. Currently, I do that in 2.8 seconds.
2.8 seconds to go 100 feet on what looks like a souped-up rototiller? When we come back, we'll find out how Willie became the world champion. Sidecar Willie Nassau is the world champion of unimotorcycle racing. Yes, I said world champion. Believe it or not, other countries have taken up one-wheel racing. In fact, right now, Willie's preparing for a unimotorcycle competition in Switzerland.
This is my machine that's going to Switzerland. But as you can see, the motors have got bigger, the tires have got bigger. We're talking about 120 horsepower here, one wheel, no steering, no brakes. The idea in the race is not just to go 100 foot, but to survive the attempt. Because a lot of times people don't make it.
Willie's wiped out more than a few times himself, but he climbs right back on and tries again because Willie just can't seem to say the word can't.
When the world says you can't do this or don't do that, when you're out here, you can do anything you want. It's crazy.
A lot of folks might think Willie's ideas are crazy. Levitate a house? Well, who knows? He's already learned how to levitate a sidecar. Kate and Mark Tague don't have to levitate. They're already way up in the trees. And Laura Leveque, AKA Jackass Jill, she gets high the way she always has, looking for rocks with her close personal friends.